Hack Shack Quick Fix.
In today's quick fix video, I'm going to be trying to fix these creative computer speakers. But before we get into that, I have to tell you a tale. You might call it a cautionary tale about one of the worst packaging jobs I've ever seen. So if you collect anything, I'm sure you've had good shipping experiences and bad shipping experiences. And it comes down really to two things: the carrier, how well the carrier treats your package, which you can't do much about, and how well the shipper packs things initially to go out the door. That's something that we all have control over if we're shipping something back and forth. And there's shippers that pack really well, and there's shippers that don't. We can't all get shippers like Adrian Black gets on some of his things and, build special pull things and pack in foam and all kinds of stuff. I mean, this is really the ultimate in packing here. But unfortunately, with this particular item that I'm going to be talking about today, the packing was pretty awful. In fact, it's the worst packaging I've ever seen. So what do you think you would be getting in the mail if you bought an item like this? I happen to get these speakers on Mercari. I don't know if you use Mercari much, but I use them from time to time. Every once in a while, something will pop up that I'm interested in. Anyway, here's the original listing here. So we've got the Sound Blaster speakers here in the box, looking great. There's another picture of them here in the box. The box doesn't show too much wear, but a little bit of wear. That's expected, right? And here's the top of the box. And yeah, looks pretty good. $10, $12.50 shipping. That all seems okay to me when I bought these. Even the description down here, right? Sound Blasters ! Computer speakers with room to hook up more. I don't know what they mean by that, but it definitely says here, new in the box, paperwork and all. I'm not going to say what the seller's listing is, but let's just say it's a seller that was located in the Finger Lake region of upstate New York. So fast forward about a week, and here is what I received in the mail. Yeah, just let this sink in just a little bit, right? So no box, wrapped in leftover bubble wrap of some sort, maybe from another package. Not even a different cardboard box to put these things in. Speakers themselves are exposed. And by the way, this is not something that the shipper did, as the seller tried to claim, because you can see the tape here was taped right over the bottom of the speaker. So they shipped these with the speakers sticking out of the wrapping. You can see some more pictures here that I took because I had to document this for Mercari to get my refund. So you can see the damage here. There's cracks in the case. There was wire that was, of course, damaged because it was exposed and, had gotten knocked around in delivery vehicles or whatever. Scuffs on the top. Here's some more damaged wire. And, basically very, very lucky that these weren't damaged further. There were things rattling around inside these speakers. So yeah, I did communicate with the seller, and basically what they said was that they were not at fault. The shippers must have done something in transit, which I replied, the shippers did not repackage this, take it out of the box and repackage it, and put a new shipping label on it. This is actually the way it was sent out. So anyway, the long and short of it is that Mercari refunded my money immediately. No questions asked. The only thing I don't like about Mercari is if you choose to get a full refund, they don't let you give any feedback for an individual seller, which really kind of bums me out because there are more people that are probably getting the same type of mispackaged or poorly packaged items from this seller. And they don't know because I couldn't leave any feedback on the seller themselves to say, hey, you probably shouldn't buy from this person, or make sure that they package it really well, because otherwise you're going to have a problem. So that's definitely a knock on Mercari, because I looked up the rating, and this seller actually has a 5-star rating, which I can't believe that they have a 5-star rating. I will say that I got something else from this seller later on that was definitely not even intended for me. It was intended for a completely other buyer. So there's another buyer out there who was expecting an old TV, a flat screen TV, that did not get it. Instead, I got it. Why? I don't know. But it just goes to the competency of this particular seller, who unfortunately has a 5-star rating with a bunch of glowing reviews for the packages that were sold that didn't have problems. And so nobody has any idea if this particular seller has problems because of the way Mercari works. So I hope they change that soon, because really, you can't let stuff like this happen and not at least warn potential buyers that they may have problems with packaging and shipping. So anyway, that's the story. Let's go ahead and take a look at the damage on these speakers in more detail and see if we can fix them quickly. All right, so let's take a closer look at these speakers and see if there's anything really wrong with it. We'll take a close look at the damage. Before I get into that, I want to see if I can figure out what year these were made. And there's a few clues here. So number one, these speakers are branded Creative. And you can see the logo here has kind of an underscore under the A. This logo can give you a hint, but I noticed something else that could give us an even better hint at when these particular speakers came out. So this may be a little hard to see, but this is the power adapter for them. And you can see the power adapter is actually branded Cambridge Soundworks and not Creative. In fact, on the back of the enclosures for the speakers, they are also branded Creative Soundworks. So we've got Creative on the front and Cambridge Soundworks in the back. And I looked this up, and it turns out that Creative, the company Creative, bought Cambridge Soundworks in 1997. So the fact that these have dual branding, Creative and Cambridge Soundworks, on both the power supply and on the actual casing for the speakers itself, that would probably put this around 1997, 1998. So these, depending on what you consider vintage, these may or may not be particular vintage if they're only 22 years old or so. But for me, I would say that's vintage. I think anything it really depends on the person. There's no one terminology. It's not like we have Gen X and Gen Y and Gen Z and all that kind of stuff. And there's somewhat of an agreed upon separation of when things are considered vintage. As we get older, things that are newer become vintage quicker, I guess, or something like that. So for me, these speakers would be really nice to have alongside a vintage, perhaps like a Pentium era, late Pentium machine, something that you would have used around the 2000s or slightly before the 2000s. So maybe not an early Pentium, but maybe on the later side, a Pentium 3, Pentium 4. So that's why I wanted to pick these up. The earliest reference I could find for these speakers on Internet Archive was from a magazine from October of 1998, so that seems to confirm my theory about the timing. One other thing that I noticed, I don't know if you'll be able to see here, but the treble dial is actually sunken in. So if you look at these dials here and how far they are out, how proud they are from the case, the treble is really stuck in there, almost like it took a hit. And I'm wondering if I open these up, if I won't find that this particular pot has been pushed back and almost broken off. I don't know. And the other thing I noticed is the grills. So the grills for these have either snapped out a little bit or something. Again, not really noticeable, but they're definitely loose, like they've been popped out, or something's broken off. Maybe some of the plastic molding in here is broken off. So that's unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world. Again, something rattling in this one. So we'll have to see what that is, but let's go ahead and try to play some music through these and see if they work. Just a quick look on the back of the main speaker. You can see there's left speaker here, headphone, and then there's a 9-volt DC jack for a DC jack to be plugged in, and then the audio input. It's kind of hard to read there, but they actually did label these jacks what they are: left speaker, headphone, and power on this side. Okay, so I've got the music queued up on my laptop here. Let's just see what it sounds like. Yeah, so I can tell you already that the one speaker is not working at all. Yeah, music is only coming out of this speaker, not out of this one at all. Let's just see if the buttons work. Here's mute. Yeah, so mute works. And the bass button, let's get some bass in here first. Okay, let's turn up the bass. Yeah, it's hard to tell, but there is definitely a bass, change in the bass response. Let's try the treble. Oh yeah, I can hear the, I don't know what that is, a cymbal, a hi-hat or something. I can hear it much better when it's turned up. Let's turn it down. It sounds good. This one speaker, it actually sounds pretty good coming out of my laptop. Let me see if I can move these wires around. See if that makes a difference here. Here's that part that's all kinked up. That doesn't seem to be doing anything. Okay, so messing with the cord, which is what I suspect is probably wrong here, didn't seem to make any difference. The next thing I did was I just hooked up, since this has a headphone jack, I hooked up my headphones here, and I'm only getting sound out of one side, which matches up with what we're seeing here. This is the left speaker, even though I have it on the right here, and I'm only getting sound out of the left channel. So there's definitely something else going on besides just a wire problem, or it could be that the wire has shorted in someplace between ground and the signal part, and that could cause it not to be working. But anyway, doesn't work out of the headphone jack, and also doesn't work when I disconnect the headphone jack. Only works out of the left speaker. So before I take this apart, I thought I would at least test for continuity and see if there's any shorts in the wires. So the way that a audio jack like this, a phono jack, whatever you want to call it, is broken up is there's for a stereo jack, there's 3 distinct silver rings. The one in the back here should be ground, and we can test that just by looking for a short between there and the outer jack on this part. Yep. So that's ground. The other 2 should be left or right, and I forget which one's which, but they should be left or right. So if we test for a short between ground and those rings, we can see if either one of them are shorted out, and nope, I don't see any shorts between there. So that kind of blows my theory out of the water about there being a short between, ground, like the wire was crimped so far that ground was connected to the other wire that's running through there. But I don't see that, so I guess I'll have to take it apart. Okay, so I've got this speaker taken apart and kind of given it a look around, and I don't see anything necessarily broken. At first glance, I looked at the caps. The caps all look okay, not leaking. They haven't vented. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that sound is getting through the cable itself. And luckily, where the cable plugs in, it actually just passes through a hole in the PCB and is soldered directly to some of these joints here. And then those are kind of held down with some hot snot so they don't come loose. And there's also strain relief right here in the cable as well, so it doesn't tug on that. Anyway, I wanted to see if there was audio coming through the wire to here. So that's the first thing. I'll start with the audio source and work my way through the board. It occurred to me I could hook this up to an oscilloscope, and you could actually see whether we've got waveforms or not on the left and right side. But I don't even think we have to do that, because if I put my multimeter in AC mode, this one has a Hertz function, so I can monitor the frequency in AC here. So let me show you what I mean by that. We should see something going on. We're not going to see a waveform like you would with an oscilloscope, but we should see the frequency jumping around when we're monitoring the audio signal. So I'm going to go ahead and hook this bare jack up to my laptop. This is just a jack. I have lots of these floating around for working on projects and things. It's a stereo jack, so it exposes ground and left and right. So I'm just going to hook this up to my laptop, and I'll put this on ground, and then I will touch each side of this. Now, when I touch this side, I don't know if you can see, but the numbers on the multimeter on the hertz, the frequency, are jumping around pretty rapidly. Like I said, we're not going to see a waveform, but we would expect to see the frequency changing as the music fluctuates, right? And if I do that on the other side, you can also see that the music is playing there because the frequency is fluctuating. So I can see that there's activity on both the left and the right channels of this audio signal. So now let me take this out and plug in the, whoops. Let me take that out and plug in the speakers, and we'll see if the same thing is happening on the other side of the cable here where it plugs into the board. That'll tell us whether the cable's any good or not. Okay, I'm playing again. So let's check the left speaker. Okay, yeah. And you can see there's something going on in the left speaker because the frequency is changing quite rapidly. And then if I hook this up to the right speaker, 0, nothing, absolutely nothing happening on the right side. And you can see if I move the probe away from the signal, it goes up to 60 Hertz, which is the power level. But if I put my probe back on that signal, which is very hard to do, there we go. You can see it just drops right down to 0. So there's nothing coming in. There's nothing coming in through this cord on that right channel. There's only stuff coming in on the left channel. So there's a kink in this cord somewhere, and that's what's causing this not to work, I presume. So I'm going to try to fix that, and then we'll see if this works. If not, there might be other problems. I don't know, but I'm guessing that probably this cord is really the only thing that's causing a problem right now. Okay, so here's what I'm doing. I did find a place in the cable that looked like it had a little kink in it, and so I cut it off just past that point. And I'm hoping when I test out this cable that was the problem, or at least I'm past wherever the problem is in this cable. And you know, there's still about 4 feet left of this cable, so that should be long enough to hook this up to a computer or something. And then I've stripped the ground and the left and the right channel here, so I've exposed that. And I'm just going to take a look and see if we have signal on both the left and the right side. Now I assume the left is this white color, but it might not be. This might be right. But in any case, this is a little hard to do. I'm just going to hold that down, hold this down. Yeah. And so you can see the hertz, the frequency is moving around as the song is playing. So now let's take a look at this side of the cable, the right channel. And can I get that on there? Close enough. So it's making contact, and you can see that the frequency is, sure enough, bouncing around as the music is playing. So now I have a cable that's good up to here on both the left and the right sides. So I'll take this, unsolder this old cable here, put a little strain relief in, connect it back up, and see if we get it working. Okay, so I've got everything back together. I did do something. It seems like when you put something back together, you always forget something. I put everything back together and forgot to feed the speaker wire through the hole in the back. So I had to go back and redo it all again, but that happens from time to time. It's just part of the process. Okay, got everything back together, have the left speaker hooked up. Let's play some music and see if these things work. Yep. And they're both working. Okay, so here's the thing. They're both working. They don't have a built-in pan ability or a left-right control at all. So, but I can hear, you'll have to take my word for it, I can hear on both sides that the music's coming out. It's pretty loud, and it actually sounds pretty good. I think these speakers would do just fine with you know, kind of a low end setup. We're not going for high end or anything, but I can see these two speakers sitting alongside a late Pentium, maybe a Pentium 200 or Pentium 3, Pentium 4, as I said. I can see these sitting alongside of that just fine and providing some really nice sound. I've got them turned up about 25%, and I'm sure if I turned them all the way up, they would be more than loud enough for any type of desktop application. So yeah, this looks like it's working pretty good. So if you like that video, please give it a like or subscribe. And you know, from time to time, it's just nice to have a little simple, quick little fix like this that comes out nicely. And even though the packaging on this was horrible, these speakers did survive. Maybe that's a testament to Creative or Cambridge Sound Design, whichever factory these came out of, that they actually lasted so well and only had a kink in the cable. So pretty pleased with this one. Quick repair, definitely worth doing. And hopefully if you're going to try something like this, if you have a problem with some speakers, whether it's before shipping or after shipping, check the cable. Check the cables and see if there's any crimps, and If there is, go ahead and maybe try and attempt a repair like this. I think you'll find it well worth the time for a beginner that's looking for a project to do. So with that, yeah, like I said, subscribe if you like this video. Really getting close to the 1,000 subscriber mark. So I appreciate everybody that's hitting that subscribe button right now. Also, if you want to become a patron, there's links below. And there's also links to my Instagram and Twitter accounts. So if you want to just follow me there and see what I'm doing in between episodes, highly recommend that as well. Until next time, thanks for watching. If you want to support me on Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/retrohackshack and sign up. If you support me at a high enough level, you can get your picture in the credits, just like Parker here.
End of line.